The case of obstruction of justice of every right to recourse at law and the right to jury trial. Now, when I said that the political parties made a constitutional amendment to vote, have you vote for a group by lot, that's why Swift got in. You couldn't push any other ticket. You could only vote for the party. Now we deal with Article 9 of the Declaration of Rights. All elections, and this also deals with the right of appointment to be a judge, all elections ought to be free, and all inhabitants of this Commonwealth have such qualifications as they shall establish by their frame of government, have an equal right to elect officers and to be elected for public employments. That means you have the right, equal right, to be considered as a judge. You weren't, you were denied your right. You were disenfranchised. You were denied your civil right to be considered as a judge. And because our courts are not comprised of any lay people who had an equal constitutional right to appointment, the courts are de facto unconstitutionally usurped by a particular class of people that used the people and the power to abuse the people and the power. They did it with intent. And the elections for district attorney is in there. An attorney general. When it comes to an election, to elect, you shall have equal right to vote, and the right, every voter shall have the right to be elected thereto. Everybody that has the right to vote has the right to be voted for. That's a constitutional provision. The court ruled for their association. Ruled against the fact, against the law, against the Constitution, against the oath of office. In order to become a judicial mafia. Now, there are people that don't have the patience, and they will do what they want to do. And I say, do whatever you want to do. As far as I'm concerned, anarchy is legitimate right now. As far as I'm concerned, anybody that rips out and says, I can't take it no more, and I won't take it no more, they have my compassion. Because it's overwhelming. And they hit the futility, and they can't stand it no more. They got a right to do whatever they want to do. Natural law. I am capable of doing that. But I'm patient. You might think I'm not patient. Sometimes I scream and yell and everything, I get angry. But I'm patient, I'm kind, I'm compassionate to these delinquents too. Because a lot of them really don't know any better. Forgive them, for they know not better, because they're victims of their own alter ego.
Well, they've been schooled to believe that everything that they're doing is just and right. They've been stuck with this book, the parts of the Constitution that Bill read that show them that it's legal for this to happen, when in fact they weren't there when they wrote these. Some of them weren't there when these articles were written.
Well, they're products of the system.
That's right. They've been trained to accept everything that they're doing as legitimate, when in fact they really do know that it's wrong.
I said politely that they probably graduated Dale Carnegie School, how to win friends and influence people. That means give them the business.
That's right.
By lying and cheating and being condescending and being agreeable with everybody, being politically correct in order to get into their pocket.
Right.
Or give them, let them trust you with the keys to their house.
Lead them down the road a little bit.
But what I think they really did, I think they graduated a school with a doctorate degree as sociopaths. Everything they do, they believe they're right. They believe it's right. No matter what they do, they're justified. They have the power, they're inculcated, they join the gang to advance themselves, they hee-haw, they're victimizing society, exploiting all of the programs. It's so infamous. You know, we have an economic problem. Right now they're talking about an economic crisis.
Well, the people don't know yet how bad it's going to be, but give it a couple
When
months.
you're making $60,000 a year and you can't live right,
There's a problem.
you got a problem. When you're making $60,000 a year and you don't have enough money, you got to go to buy credit cards in order to make it. You have a problem. Now, how did we get here? 3 decades, 30 years ago, they started, and I was an environmental sanitarian, and I was the first one to have consulting called RS Environmental Controls 30 years ago. When I established the business in Boston, the next day the Globe wrote, "The mafia is getting into the environmental business." Nobody else was in the environmental business but me. They just started to consider this new program. So I was apprehensive. I knew it was there. And I was qualified. But that's the kind of attack that was put on me by the Boston Globe. Why? There are a number of reasons why. Now, they ran that article as a message, right? Now, of course, I did other things very controversial. But let's look 30 years back, 3 decades. Regulators. While we were away fighting the Second World War, busy in Europe, Japan, Rosie the Riveter was out there working, and women were introduced into the labor force. Emergency measures were introduced to regulate and control because of the war and necessity. But after the Second World War, we got more regulations. While we were away, they invented all kinds of licensing. People came back to get a job, and they found out that educational institutions were putting an industry together to certify people to be street cleaners. And they put all different kinds of titles and everything. And then they ran a program to subsidize education, certification, work permits. And then they kept adding on the curriculum and the hours. And today we wind up children being paid, having to borrow $50,000 to go to college. So when they graduate, they come out with bad credit. And they can't go nowhere. And the college is laughing, right? A bunch of PhDs driving taxis. Borax clean and hawk with bad credit. And being threatened by the government saying you didn't pay your loan.